Hello everybody. Today we are going to focus on Galera Manager and how we can use it to deploy clusters on user-provided hosts. So this is the aim here. As you can tell, I've created a few instances, one for Galera Manager and the 3 empty nodes. So we will hop on over to the documentation very quickly. We'll just grab that. So you can see that I have actually used CentOS here, but my user provided hosts, of which I'm going to also log on into, first time logging in as you can see, is Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. So that was G1, this is G2, and for completeness we should also log on to G3. Just resize this window real quick. Okay, so we've got the GM up here, and we've got all the relevant G2s, G1, G2, G3, and they're all fresh installs. So I'm going to chmod GM installer, and I'm going to install it. Of course, I'm going to accept. And we're going to install it here. And this can take a bit of time, as one would expect, but overall, it shouldn't take too long. It does have to update a lot of yum packages, amongst other things. As you can see, it does depend on things like Influx TV, and it will also, of course, disable SC Linux and re-enable it later when the installation is complete. So we're quite close to getting Galera Manager itself fully installed, at which point I should be able to access it fairly soon via going to a URL. As you can see, nothing is running there yet, but it will be fairly soon. All right, and we are good to go. I will log on, and I have the option to deploy a fully managed cluster, deploy it on user-provided hosts, which requires access to do node monitoring, etc., and monitoring an existing cluster. 88% of users at a recent webinar said that they prefer to be running on user-provided hosts, and of course, this is what we provide. So I'm going to call it demo, and we're going to install MySQL 8 on Ubuntu 20.04, and I'm going to create this and it tells you that Galera Manager of course needs to have root access, so make sure you add this to the authorized keys. So I'm of course going to copy said key, and if I go down here to authorized keys, I should be able to just do a little paste there. You can use whatever text editor you choose. I have added it. I click the finish button, and now all I need to do is hit the add node button, and let's call it G1. And the SSH address for this one is none other than here. I can check the access to make sure that it can actually SSH into. And yes, it can. At which point I'll just hit the deploy button. So just to be doubly sure, I can't type MySQL here at the moment because there's nothing installed. Here we can see what's actually going on. It actually does restart SSHD as well to accept new environment variables. And now it's actually pulling down packages to install MySQL. This is actually quite cool. And it actually does provision node by node. Obviously, you can't provision all 3 nodes at the same time. So it's still not there yet, but it will be fairly soon. And you'll notice that I've installed MySQL 8, which normally actually requires you to have to grab a temporary password and so forth. But here we would solve all of that during the installation process to make it much easier. So it is going to take some time to install these packages where still there. So I'd like to point you to maybe a little resource that you could access. We always recommend that you check out our blog, which is also, by the way, linked here. And we've also got little newer information that tells you, Galera Manager is now fixed for user hosts and so forth. So it's quite a useful blog resource that we recommend for you. And of course, we have not only latest blog posts here, we also add our webinar information and so forth here. So very useful website, so to speak. So it does definitely take some time. So you can probably go get a cup of coffee, and you'll notice that now we've got a different error because the client has already been installed. It's just that you're unable to log in because the server itself is not installed, and that's actually happening right here, right now. And we're probably getting fairly close to being complete. So you can see the node installation is running, host deployment's done, and the node start, of course, is still pending because installation is still happening. All these logs are, of course, logged into Galera Manager, so you can always look at them later as well. And we're all practically almost done. So as you can see, node installation is done. Now we're hitting the node start and we're finished. So if I type MySQL now, I can log on. And the obviously good news is I can type this, hit the SSH terminal option. So you'll actually see that there are two root users logged in at this point in time. And earlier there was only one, so 34 and 54 is now root. So show databases, create database demo as an example. Of course, naturally, we'd want to add another node. So this is Galera 2. And we will just enter the SSH details, make sure it actually works. So it's testing the connection, all is well. And then we hit the deploy. So naturally the deploy is going to take the same amount of time to get going. Just so you know, that's correct. And we do the same thing here. It should of course still show on. So notice that it's also actually configuring IP tables, etc. for you. So this is naturally a smart solution. You don't have to do much of anything to configure your Galera. And if we go to etc MySQL, and if you take a look at the my.cnf, it just tells you to go down further. Again, very similar. So we're probably interested in the WS rep. Which tells you some options. All reasonably sensible, as you can see. It tells you that there's IST receive addresses, SSL certs. So we're running it in full SSL mode, and of course adding the receive address for SSTs, and making sure that you have you're using the clone method for provisioning a new host when it's time to do an SST. So all pretty interesting overall. And again, just a typical error log information. So yeah, it's literally making sure that all of this is changed and done for you in an automatic fashion. We can only deploy, as I said, one node at one point in time, and of course you can see a bit of the fact that it actually is blocking. So it's obviously still one, since as you can see ManDB is having some triggers being run inside of Ubuntu. As you can see, such an install takes approximately 10 minutes per server, depending on the internet speeds and also obviously your instances. But this is a standard MySQL install, so you can probably get started in a good 30 minutes or less. And you'd be surprised that fairly soon this cluster size will go up to 2. And we are really near the end now, so almost up to the 10 minutes. And you can actually see here when the first node got deployed and when the second node is going to start. It will actually show on the graph as soon as I can switch it from 15 minutes to 5. Well, 15 minutes is a great time to show you. And it looks like, yeah, we're now at almost at cluster size 2. Errors are okay. All right, there you go, another spike. So that alone tells you how long it took to get started. Cluster size is now 2, almost started. Again, errors don't mean anything. It just means that things are happening. And yeah, as you can see, it's finished. Just take a look at this. For the lag time from getting one CPU to the next, basically 718 versus 730. So it definitely took a lot longer than 10 minutes. It actually took 12 minutes in this particular example. And you can double tap to get out. And naturally, we can go to Galera 2, hit the SSH terminal, show databases. Of course, the demo database is there, so we don't need that any longer. And it's the same here, of course. So I've already created a 2-node Galera cluster. No surprises for figuring out that if I hit the add node button and I hit Galera 3 and I type IP adder here, I just need to always double check to make sure it has access, at which point it does. Hit the deploy. And we're almost there, getting a new node into the cluster. As you can see, the cluster size is now increased to 3. You'll be able to again see on the graph when this finally happens, there'll be a bit of a CPU spike. Voila. So as I said, it takes approximately 10 minutes to deploy a node. And this is the third node. And fairly soon I should be able to log on to MySQL, show databases. All good. So again, here I can see all the jobs. Install node, start node. So 9 minutes ago, as you can see, it does take some time. So there are fairly good logs. And as I said, it should take you no longer than 30 minutes to get a 3-node cluster up and running. If we go down to the last 5 minutes, we can also go for a bit more in depth as to what's going on. And 30 minutes will show you we had cluster 1 start, cluster 2 start, and cluster 3 start. So, and of course there's a bit of replication going on because they all have to have the same information. You can obviously see what's going on in node 3, node 2, node 1. We can of course just stop this if we choose. So if I now try to type show status like WSREP cluster size, Still 3, but then we've lost connection here, and now we're down to 2. Now if I hit the start, it should of course have no issues starting up, and in no time you will have your third node back and running. I'm pretty sure I hit the start button, but let's just make sure. Oh, it's running the start node. Actually, twice it's running the start node, so hopefully that doesn't cause any issues. And voila. So all is well again, and you should be able to again see a little spike here because that node started, so there was obviously a bit of a CPU spike when it started. And of course, there was an ISP if required. So all very viewable. So there we go. We've got a 3-node Galera cluster deployed on bare hosts on DigitalOcean. And you can do this on your own host as well. Thank you for watching.